Hi guys, you're welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Yvonne Princess Shabango. If you are new here, you're welcome to like, subscribe, share, and comment. And voila, you're part of the graceful, the beautiful, and the wonderful family. We are back with another video, and today it is Employment Wednesdays. Please forgive me, like my voice is a little bit not okay because like I'm away on holiday, and yeah, I've been at it. So anyway, today we are going to talk about how you can fully prepare yourself for board exams, right? So rule number one, we all know, I just want to clear this air so that people don't feel some type of way. I need you to know that board exams are not a measure of intelligence. You can be the smartest person in the room, you can cum laude your degree and all of that and still not do well in board exams or still even fail board exams, because board exams require a lot of preparation, they require a lot of discipline, and they require a lot of effort. So you can't, with some modules in uni would say, I can maneuver, I can use general knowledge, but with board exams, some of them, if you don't know, you don't know. Like it's like, for instance, if you don't know the L&D and the estates board exams, like there's nothing you can do. You get there, you don't know the formula, you can't say maybe if you didn't prepare. Sorry guys. So you can't say if you didn't prepare, you're going to get there and see what you do. No, you can't do that. You have to know your formulas. You have to know each step. You have to know what to do. So I'm going to take you through my experience, right? Before I even advise how I think people can actually fully prepare for their board exams. Number one, like I said, you need to understand this is not a measure of intelligence, right? It is a measure of how well prepared you are and how disciplined and consistent you are, and also how much you took and how much you put into your board exams. Because like in uni, it was easy for us to study a week before, 2 weeks before. With boards, you can try that, but trust me, you are skiing on thin ice because possibilities you might not make it, right? So it's usually advisable that you prepare in advance, and which is one of the mistakes that I made. So I wrote 4 board exams. You can write all 4 if you have the capacity and the time. People have done it. It's doable. It's not impossible. You can write 3-1. You can write 2-2. If you have all the time in the world, you can, like, let's say for instance, by the time you start your candidate attorney, your articles, right? By the time you start your articles, let's say you've done law school, so you've basically met the requirement to qualify for your board exams, right? So you can write 1-1-1-1, like you work it out however it works for you. But usually it's advisable that you don't write 1-1-1, because you don't know if you're going to pass that one. That's how bad it gets with board exams. So you can't say, oh no, I have 2 years, so I can write one every term. Every term there's boards, I'll write one. You can't do okay, you can do that, but I don't advise it, because you can write that one and fail it. So when now, which means the next time you have two. And the thing about board exams is certain papers that have you on chokehold that will make you rewrite as many times. So you can't just say, oh no, I'll just do one. So I think it's better if you do two, so that there's a possibility that you'll pass one, or a possibility that you'll pass both of them, right? So you've decided, step number one, you've decided how you want to pay your board exams, right? I would say, so paper one is courts, right? And then paper two is wills and estates, paper three is ethics, and then paper four is bookkeeping. I would say do book, because okay, some people prefer doing the numbers and getting them out of the way. Wills and estates and bookkeeping are like a numbers game, right? So obviously with wills and estates, it's much better because there's a lot of wording there, right? There's some theory, at least you can bank on some theory, but at the end of it all, you have to calculate certain things, you have to put certain things together, like the L&D account, and the L&D account makes at least out of 60 marks. So if you master the L&D account, you probably have mastered half of your paper. But if you don't know the L&D account, you risk actually failing, because like it makes up most of the paper, right? And then so I would say you can do your estates with bookkeeping, right? Of which I did them together. I did estates and bookkeeping, but then I had to redo bookkeeping because, yeah, nedi chile, and because also I took it for granted. I'm great at math. Hey, in my mind, I thought, bookkeeping, and I was great in accounting as well. I just didn't take the accounting stream. I remember my teacher was so disappointed, but I was really great in accounting. So I decided because I was great in accounting, and I'm great with maths. I'm great with numbers, and because I thought to myself, because I'm great with that, I will leave it for last minute. I'll leave bookkeeping for last minute and just do a rush down. After doing a rush down, I'll just go and write and pass. And to my shock, it doesn't work like that. You can be great at something, but it doesn't take away that you need to prepare, you need to practice, you need to make sure that you know what you're doing, and you need to give yourself enough time. So had I prepared, had I given myself enough time, I know I would have passed or aced bookkeeping like I did with wills and estates. I didn't have to redo wills and estates. I did like absolutely great, right? And then so you can decide how you pay them out, say numbers aside and then theory together. And then some people tell you that at least take paper one, which is theory, and then take paper four, which is numbers, so you don't get them confused. You're not trying to you're not trying to understand or apply a lot of formulas, because and just the other one is theory, right? You can do that. So you can mix them up. You can do one theory, one numbers game. You can do a numbers game and a numbers game, or vice versa, right? But I think it's really important that you have an understanding of the amount of time you have to prepare. You've got an understanding of what are your weak points. And then also, you would never know your weak points if you're not studying, if you're not preparing for those board exams. Like, for instance, I knew, like, I didn't have a problem with COTS, right? Which is paper one. I didn't have a problem with it because my first rotation, when I wrote COTS, my first rotation was the litigation. So the time I wrote COTS, I had already been in the litigation department for like, I think for over 6 months. Yeah, it was over 6 months. So I knew that it was my strong point, but I really need to remind myself of certain things, remember certain wording and stuff like that, right? So I did my thingy, my COTS, but also I regret this. I don't think, and I share these things because I think this is how I could have done better, right? I regret this because, one, I started 2 weeks before. I didn't do the whole thing. When people were doing the whole thing of they preparing months in advance, I thought people are not fine. I thought not genius, right? In as much as when it was all said and done, I passed all of my board exams, but I think I passed them under so much stress and pressure, and I didn't need to put myself through that. I could have just prepared in advance, and I could have prepared on time. So with courts, I knew that I had just rotated the litigation department, and I knew most of the staff. So basically, me studying for courts was just like a revision, right? So what I did was studied for courts 2 weeks before, but I don't recommend 2 weeks before because, guys, also courts is voluminous. So it's quite a lot because it's match court, high court, and yeah, all of those nitty gritties, right? And the other thing is, these things are very similar, but because now I feel like the markers or the examiners are very pedantic about how they want you to answer certain things. So if you don't answer, if you generalize, they don't like it when you generalize. You must show that you know. So if you, like, for instance, let's say you've studied the high court part, right? The high court rules and the high court processes, right? It's very similar, just different rules and maybe different days in between, right? So if you've studied your high court, right, then you can study your match court, right? And or your lower courts. Yeah, you've studied your high court, you can study your lower courts, right? And then when you study this, it's important that you distinguish them. And this is where preparing in advance comes in. If you're going to study 2 weeks before, trust me, you can mix these things up. And you may end up not being able to refer to the exact accurate rules, because it does give you marks when you're able to show the examiner that, hey, listen, this notice is in terms of rule 32.1. They see that this person studied, this person is prepared. But if you're generalizing, yes, they'll give you marks, but some of them are even so strict that they won't give you marks, right? So prepare in advance. I think I would say I would have I would advise that at least for each paper have a month or 2 months. Actually, start preparing for your board exams. I know you guys, okay, maybe this will be more beneficial for people that come in after, or that are going to do their boards in September, right? But oh no, we're done, and this is the only cycle. Maybe this will work for people in supplementary or people that are writing next year March, right? But I would say prepare 3 months in advance. Like the people that are writing now in August, I'm praying and hoping that from February you started preparing, like even 6 months in advance, because you need to, guys, here's the thing, you can know the concept, but you need to repeat it over and over again until it's in your mind, until it's engraved in your mind, until you can write it in your sleep. And here's the thing, sometimes you may think you don't understand, but if you keep on rereading, rewriting, you will see that you actually understand. You even come up with your easiest way of maneuvering the whole thing around, right? So I'll tell you what, here's another advantage of knowing your stuff. When you know, right? Like for instance, I did my course, I wrote, and then when the results came back, I had a sub. I was like, never. There is no way. I was like, there ain't no way. There is no way I got a sub, because I knew that I knew, right? In as much as I had prepared within 2 weeks, which was dangerous for me, but also just because I was able to sort of take that risk because I was only doing 2 papers at that time, right? I wasn't doing 3 or 4, right? And the other paper I was doing, it was bookkeeping, and I knew that I'd already done bookkeeping previously, right? So, and then when the results came, I'm saying, Kore, hi bo, there's a sub. I was like, no, there's no way. I don't, like, this is not it. I applied for a remark, guys. Normalize applying for a remark. Normalize applying for a remark. I was like, there's no way. Like, I've got an oral. I was like, never. I'm not doing an oral. Yeah, cut. I know that I wrote, and I knew, I was confident, guys. There's one thing about me, right? Before I exit the exam room, usually, sorry about my hair, guys, like it's gonna blow because I'm outside. So so for a long time, for a very, very, very long time, thingy, I knew, like I was in the litigation department. I knew that I had studied. I knew that I had fully prepared. So when I saw her oral, I was like, no, there's no way I'm getting an oral, Mina. I studied, I was prepared in as much as I prepared within a short space of time. I applied for a remark, and I remember I was so broke, guys. So if you're like me, just always keep 700 around bookkeeping, around board exams. Keep 700 rand, so that if you feel like, no man, this is not, make sure you can get a remark. And also I was quite nervous because also people have said they've applied for a remark and their marks came back worse than ever. So okay, sharp, I applied for a remark. Within 2 weeks or so, within 2 weeks I get my results, and my results is a pass, and way far. Like, I was like, what? So imagine if I didn't have the audacity, and imagine if I wasn't sure of preparing, or of the preparation I had made. I would have just let it slide, right? And another thing that I always do before I leave the exam room, right? I was just saying earlier, before I leave the exam room, sorry, before I leave the exam room, I always know how I did. Like, I mark myself. There's things that I know for sure that, okay, this I know too about it. And when I mark myself, guys, there's no way you can mark yourself. Maybe you're on 70% and the paper come, and because I'm very harsh, I know I'm a strict marker, because I even remember with my students, like from the time I started marking when right after from grade 12, actually, I used to help my teachers mark like lower grades, what grade 10. So I know I'm a very strict marker. Even on myself, I'm even way harsh. So I've always known that even from uni, when I leave the exam room, when I mark myself like maybe 70, usually it's a 75 when it comes back. Or when I mark myself 50, it's usually an 80. So I don't overmark myself. So how do I mark myself as a harsh and a strict marker to a 70, and then when it comes back, it's like 48. I'm like, oh, I never. So I applied for a remark, got my marks, I had passed, and we kept it moving, got a good mark, and then I moved, right? And then ethics, guys. Ethics, I just want to put it out there. Ethics is very funny, because arguably it could be the easiest paper, but also easy to fail, easy to pass it, easy to fail. Even with bookkeeping, easy to pass it, easy to fail. I think those 2 papers are fairly easy, but also easy to fail and pass. I don't know, you get it, right? So with ethics, I wrote my ethics, but also I was underprepared. I knew for a fact when I left that exam room, I was like, it's not make sure. Like, I remember I marked, and then I was looking for marks. I'm like, why am I looking for marks? This is a very dangerous thing. If I start looking for marks, only something off. Like, there's something very tricky. So I prepared for ethics, but I wasn't fully prepared. Got there, I got an oral. Then I was like, oh, okay, this one I can apply for a remark. But I'm like, what if I apply for a remark? Because I don't even know where they got those marks, first of all, because I was underprepared. I prepared, and also mostly on past papers. And guys, that's dangerous. That's not good. I used past papers, and I attended Hawili Ru's classes, which those were really helpful. But here's the problem: you can't depend on revision classes, because what are you revising? Like, if you can explain to me, you're saying you're going for like maybe Hawis revision classes, or you are going to find egg revision classes. What are you revising if you didn't study? Excuse me, what are you revising if you don't know anything? Because revision is supposed to remind you of what you would have studied. So like, it's not gonna work. So because I wasn't fully prepared, so even Kawi took me through to orals, right? And then I did my oral, yeah, ethics, and it was great. I actually enjoyed my oral. I think my oral was one of the easiest exams I've ever taken in my whole entire life. And this was one because my principal, right, at the time, um so my principal is a business rescue practitioner. He specializes in business rescue and liquidation. So when I started off my articles, I would do a lot of meetings with him, and also like I had a clear understanding of what is going on. I've done a liquidation with him, and I've also attended business rescue meetings. And the people that were examining me were actually business rescue specialists. I'll give you this tip. I don't know if it's going to work for you or it won't work for me, but for you, right? But this is something that I've done even with job interviews, and I've shared this before. I'll share this again. Guys, utilize LinkedIn. There's power in LinkedIn. So what I did was, I got my link, right? When I got my link, because it was virtual, yeah. So they asked me if I wanted to attend physically or virtually. I was like, no, I want to attend what? Virtually, right? So actually, then I got my link to the oral test, right? So when I got my link to the oral test, to the oral exam, I looked, I'm like, who are these people? There was going to be, so I got 3 people that were CC'd. It was 3 of them. Then I'm like, who are these people? Actually, let me search them. Then I searched one lady. I saw she's been in practice for 20 years and she works for a big law firm. I'm like, nice. Then I was like, what are her special areas of specialization? I saw family law, I saw mining, and I saw business rescue and liquidation. I went, guys, and prepared family law, prepared business rescue and liquidation. Then I checked the other second one. Same thing. She was a specialist in business rescue. So are you? Because people love their work. There is no way you can be a business rescue specialist and not ask a business rescue exam. So, and then and then the third one also did something very similar. So I prepared business rescue. And also another thing is, when I did my oral, I was already rotating in the commercial department. So I know what it takes to remove a director. I know what a memorandum of incorporation means. I know what a memorandum of agreement means. So I was commercially aware or commercially versed. Like I was aware. So, and then I prepared all of those, but I was also so nervous because that was a very weird way of preparing, because I felt like I don't have time and capacity, and a lot of things were happening. Like, it was really, really busy at the firm. So I was like, I don't have time and capacity to be doing this. So I just took a risk and searched these people. What do they specialize in? And then I found it, and then I prepared on that. Guys, they blew my mind away. My oral exam was like literally 6 minutes. And altogether it was 10 minutes, because the 4 minutes it was for me to show myself, identify myself, my ID, and introduce myself. But it was 6 minutes. And it actually, not even 6, it was 8 minutes. And in 8 minutes, they were able to ask me at least 15 questions. And if you guys know, I'm a fast speaker, and if I know what I'm talking about, trust me, I will answer the questions before you ask me. Like, listen. So they asked me the first question, it was on liquidation. What is a liquidation? I answered. And then when I think she was about to ask me the difference between liquidation and business rescue. Then she realized that I had gone in whilst I was defining liquidation, right? And then she asked me, what is a memorandum of incorporation? She asked me, what do you do when your colleague, there's this popular question, guys. Please always prepare for it when you prepare for ethics. There's this popular question that they like asking. It's about how, let's say you find out that your colleague or your partner has money's missing in the trust account. What do you do? And then those steps, they asked me that question. I was able to answer it, because also that question was actually in the exam. And then one thing also I've learned, apparently, when they prepare your questions or when you do your orals, because I've heard people that say their orals last an hour. So apparently they will try and make you pass. Like, they will try to give you a fair chance. They'll keep on asking you questions enough to pass if you're coming through. I've heard people say horrific stories, like they told them that when you have to go rewrite, you don't know anything. There's people whereby they've told them, like, for instance, this other person, apparently they had written 4 board exams, and in the other 3 they had really gotten good marks, and it was just that one, and that one they had landed on a 48. Then they asked them, why do you think you failed, or they asked them something very vague, and then they were able to answer that, then they're like, okay, that's fine, so they also have your question, your answers, to see where you went wrong. They try and ask you those things. So if you leave the exam and there's certain concepts you're not sure about, guys, and you think you're going to get an oral, go back home and prepare those concepts, because when they look at it, they will look at your exam paper. If also, like the other trick that I told you guys, go on LinkedIn, look at the people that are examining you. What are their interests? I've always done that. Even that's how I've always won in interviews, because by the time I meet somebody, I know what you're interested in. I know what you like. If you are specializing in business rescue and I give you a top tier answer, I've won you for the rest of the exam questions. Even if you're asking me, you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, you're so great, so utilize that, if you're going to go through orals. But also, it shouldn't have to go to orals, guys. You can pass these board exams at first glance. That's if you prepare. So number one, this is how you will have to prepare. Like I said, I've been mentioning, give yourself enough time. Prepare as early as possible, 6 months prior, 4 months prior, as much as you need, because remember, our intelligence is not the same. Some people need to repeat 7 times to get it. Some people need to repeat 3 times. Some people don't even need to repeat it. They get it at first glance and they keep it moving, right? So give yourself enough time. Number 2, stay prayed up. I believe in prayer with everything I am, guys. If you're not praying, I don't know what are you doing, because we live in really weird times. Sometimes you've prepared, you know what you do, what you're talking about, you're ready to ace your exams, but you get there, you black out. So you pray against any faninyana spirit. You pray for remembrance, you pray for wisdom, you pray for knowledge, you pray for understanding. You pray, right? And then again, besides being a prayerful person, you actually have to give yourself, you need to rest. Be well rested, guys. And I know some people tell you that I wasn't sleeping, I was sleeping at 2. That's good, people will pass, but I don't think that's a good way of operating from. Like, treat your body as a temple. Give it what it needs. When you give your body what it needs, it will give you what you need. If you're well rested, you'll remember what you need to remember. If you've been studying on time in advance and you're well rested, you'll remember what you're supposed to remember for your exam, right? So be well rested. Exercise, guys. Exercise. Be healthy, eat well, and exercise. And I know that we're always busy, we're always on the road. You're going to want to eat McDonald's, you're going to want to eat junk food, you're going to want to, it's fine. You can do that if it's convenient for you. But I feel like it's important that you're eating well, it's important that you're well rested, it's important that you're exercising, so that even when time comes, because usually sometimes we don't fail because we don't know. Sometimes we fail because we get there, we're anxious. You get there, you're nervous. You get there, you black out. You get there, all you want to do is sleep because you haven't been sleeping well. So make sure that you sleep well, you exercise, you eat healthy. Like, it's that simple. And make sure that you're disciplined enough to practice enough. So if you tell yourself that for the next 6 months, for 2 hours every day, I will study. Show up. Even if you feel like something is getting boring, you understand it. Show up for those 2 hours. 2 hours is not a long time, guys. If we can go to Groove for hours on hours, 2 hours just to secure your future, it's nothing deep. And that's, what, one thing that I've realized, or one thing that I learned from board exams, is that you don't need to overdo it. Like, oh my god, if you're going to prepare within a week or 2 weeks, trust me, it's going to need you to not sleep. Like, that's what I was doing. It's going to need you to be up at the AMs. It's going to need you to, like, you're just going to squash yourself into this box whereby you are under so much pressure, you're under siege, and things are not working out. You shouldn't have to go through that. If you spread out your study time accordingly and appropriately, trust me, you are going to know what you need to know by the time the exams arrive. So it's important that you are able to study in advance, and you're disciplined enough, and you're practicing, guys. Can't stress this enough. Practice. And also, guys, have your friends, even if they don't have to be your friends, your acquaintances. I remember there was this one girl that I met when we're doing PLT. We were planning to study. Unfortunately, it didn't happen because our schedules were clashing, but we were planning to study together. And, like, create communities where you feel safe and comfortable, where you're going to have the same struggles, but you're willing to help one another overcome those struggles, because when it's all said and done, the journey to being an admitted attorney, it's not a one-man show. This takes a lot of people that are going to support you. This takes a lot of people that are going to be there for you. This takes a lot of people that are going to educate you, train you, so it's important that you normalize creating communities, that enable you to share how you're feeling, and they also help you know better and do better, right? It's important that you're in the right mental space, right? And that's why I say it, that's why I say it's important that you're eating well, you're sleeping well, you exercising, because if you are not exercising and you're not sleeping well, like, it all messes up with your mental health, and you need your mind to be in its best shape if you're going to go write board exams, so it's very important that you're mentally okay, also emotionally, because sometimes our emotions are all over the place. And if your emotions are all over the place, there's only so much that you can get done. So it's important that you're in the right space emotionally as well, spiritually, emotionally, physically, and mentally. Literally, those are the 4 pillars that will help you excel your board exams, right? And before I go, I know some people are like, no, but how do we make sure that we pass? And here's the thing, generally for all of them, guys, you prepare. First study before you go to past papers. First study before you go to revision classes. Because like I asked you earlier, if you are going to a revision class, what is a revision class? You're a lawyer and you're of the noble profession. You need to be honest with yourself. Don't play yourself. If you're saying you're going for a revision class, why are you going to a revision class when you're not prepared? Why are you going to a revision class of something you've never studied before? So first, start by studying by yourself. Train yourself, reread, write notes, create your own notes. And also sometimes, guys, with notes creation, you don't have to recreate your notes if you can't, because that's where the other problem is. You start recreating notes and you're recreating wrong things, and then when you go into the exam room with your personal notes, and once you've done your personal notes and these personal notes are not happening, the examiner is not happy. They're like, well, where did this person get this from? So it's very important that you study. This is a general rule for all 4 papers. You study in advance, you prepare in advance, you practice on your own even before you go to the revision. So when you go into the revision, it's a lot of aha moments, right? So that's what you do. You study, you prepare in advance before you even revise, before you even touch past papers. Even now, I wouldn't even recommend past papers. Ask people will tell you what past papers did to them. Doing past paper now, the new examiners we have, they're not doing the copy and paste from the previous years. They're not doing that. They're even changing the technique. And here's another thing. You would think the questions are different because you have not studied. If you studied a chapter, you will see that, oh, this is the same question they asked in 2020, but they asked it in a different manner, because there's different ways of questioning. But because also we are fixated on, no, it has to come back exactly the way it was in 2021. The only thing past papers should do for you, it should help you time yourself. Like you once you've studied, and this is generally for all papers, I'm going to come to specific things you can do for each paper, but now I want to focus on general things. You study in advance, you prepare in advance, you don't revise before you actually study, right? And then what you use your past papers for, like personally for me, past papers weren't even like a mode of I want to remember stuff, but they were helping me time myself, because also for some odd reason time moves when you're seated in the board exam room, right? So I was timing myself. I'll take an ethics paper. Oh, it's 2 hours. I'll try and push to finish within 1 hour, 30 minutes, so that I have enough time to proofread my stuff, so that I have enough time to actually check if there's something that I missed or did not remember. So it's important that you use past papers for timing purposes. And then also, besides timing purposes, guys, just to teach yourself how to answer certain things. Because when they release memos, I know now they don't release memorandums, because apparently we cram, pass, and forget, and we become lawyers that suck. So what you need to do is structure. It also teaches you how to structure answers, right? So when you've seen a memorandum, you've seen how they usually want their letters in plain language, neatly written. You start with this, you end with that. So those are the things that you should be focusing on when you're using past papers, not just, oh no, I'm using past papers so that I can pass. This is the only method, or this is the only mode I'm going to use. You're going to, like, you're setting up yourself for failure. So those are the 2 general rules. Prepare in advance, and when you're going to use past papers, make sure that you're using them to time yourself, right? And then with courts, guys, courts needs time. You need to read first. Read, and then once you read, understand apprehend, comprehend, read, right? Once you've read, then you can now see if you're able to summarize something, because also the ability to summarize also shows you how well you understand something. After you've read everything, try to see if you summarize. If you are not able to summarize, continue reading it. You can read the same set of notes 4 times. Once you've read, then you can maybe try and create certain questions. I love how you see those manuals, the manuals we get on from PLT, how they are structured. It's like some of them create questions for you. Look at those things. Oh, okay, there's this exercise that's there. Am I able to answer this exercise? If they asked me what is so and so, am I able to answer that? If they were able to ask, if they were asking me when is a dictal citation used, am I able to answer that? So you need to read enough. I can't stress this enough. You can't pass courts without reading. Maybe back then they used to do it, but now people tell you can't pass courts just by reading past papers. You will get shocked. You will hurt yourself. You will repeat it until Jesus comes. That's for paper 1. Read. Paper 2, practice. Guys, so firstly you read, right? And then once you've read, you practice your L&D account. Do not step out of your house going to write an estate exam without knowing your L&D account. Like you're setting up yourself for failure. You are setting yourself up for failure. So know your L&D account, right? Know your L&D account. Know your L&D account. Number 2, practice enough. Like if it means, like let's say you're preparing 3 months in advance, every weekend look for L&D questions, answer those questions. And you don't have to go to past papers, guys. The PLT manuals, those guidelines, they have questions at the back, they have questions in between. Try and use those questions, because also those questions are the fresh ones. Try and use those questions. And those questions, some of them, they actually come out in the exam room. If you did in the exam paper, if you didn't know, I'm telling you now. You see those questions, those exercises, even at the back of your manual, there's usually ways of answering questions. Those ways are actually the ways examiners expect you to answer. Use your PLT guidebook. Don't just take it and throw it under the bed. It's actually one of the best methods of actually studying properly for your board. Right. And then number 3, ethics. Guys, ethics is something else. I feel like it's one of those things where I can say you can never be fully prepared. Like you can't be like, yeah, I'm confident, yeah, I can, because it's very broad. So it's anything and everything. So also ethics will test if you've studied for the rest of your board exams. So if you didn't study properly for your paper 1, for your paper 2, and for your paper 4, paper 3 will show. It will expose you. Good to know. Because they'll ask you accounting stuff. They'll ask you what 2 types of account must every law firm have. They'll ask you what does FICA require of law firms. And those are the things that you learn when you're busy with bookkeeping. Right? When you're busy preparing for bookkeeping, that's where you learn those things. They'll ask you in ethics. Ethics will ask you to draft a notice of intention to defend. They'll ask you to draft a contract. They'll ask you what business rescue is all about, and these are things that are spread out in all the other papers. So it's important that, if anything, guys, if you're a person that's lazy or anything like that, if anything, you can connive and find shortcuts for other papers, but ethics, please study. Because also with ethics, you can repeat that thing. I don't know, I've heard, and it's so sad, I've heard people that tell you that I'm doing ethics for the 7th time, and you're like, no, but this person is so brilliant, and they are brilliant, but they keep on repeating ethics. That's why I said it's not even a measure of intelligence. It's how well you're able to prepare, the techniques you use. Sleep, rest, drink your water, be hydrated, practice, repeat. Do not find yourself feeling like, it's fine. I've studied enough. It's been a month after all. Board exams are far. Exam dates approach like you wonder, you ask yourself, what's happening? They approach so quickly. Very quickly, so yeah, these have been my experience. And then also with ethics, make sure that you study everything across, because they expose you if you haven't studied the rest of the other papers. Bookkeeping, practice. Bookkeeping, the first time you actually read through your notes, even those PLT guides, they actually also help. Like, I think they're of big help. A lot of people used to say, there was a stereotype, and I really hope that I wished that I didn't listen to people. People would be like, no, these guides don't help. Guys, those guides help. Read those guides, and like, at least go over each of them 3 times. Those guides are the one that will help you know what you need to know. They'll help you like understand concepts very much easier. Use those guides. Don't just take those things and put them away in your study, whatever the case may be. Read those guides. They're really helpful. They will help you a long way. There's that, right? So with bookkeeping, go over your guide, and I think it's the thinnest. Yeah, bookkeeping, go over your guide, and then once you've gone over your guide, then start practicing these questions. Start practicing the questions. If you don't understand, ask your friends, ask other people, and also normalize trying to teach other people, because when you're able to teach something, usually you get better at it. Ask your friend, guys, can we do a Zoom meeting or Teams meeting? I'll teach you guys bookkeeping. I think I'm becoming great at it. So as you continue to teach people, you remember, it becomes a thing for you. So yeah, that's how you basically prepare for board exams. Give them time, rest, pray, talk to other people, create a community where you share study tips, where you study together, and exercise. Exercise. I can't stress this enough. There's something about exercising that's very centering. And talk to people about your feelings so that you're in a good mental headspace. It's very important that we have people that we can rely on for certain things that we feel like are too much for us. So yeah, that has been basically my experience. Don't play yourself by not preparing in advance. I personally played myself. My board exams journey could have been smoother than it was, but I played myself because I thought to myself, no man, I'm a genius, so I don't need to prepare. I'm great at this, I'm good at these things, I'm good at ABCD. But that's the thing, being good at something doesn't substitute the work you need to put in. Sorry, being good at something doesn't substitute the fact that you need to practice. Being good at something doesn't substitute that you need to show up, you need to wake up on time, you need to practice as much as you can, because being great at something doesn't, like I said, being great at something doesn't substitute the work that you need to put in. You have to put in the work. It's the same way. Praying does not substitute the fact that you have to study. You study to show yourself approved. We study, we pray, we study, we pray, we study, we pray. We don't just do one. We're great at something, you practice it. I'm a great speaker, but I'll read books. I don't stop reading, because it's like I need to keep on doing better. I need to keep on knowing better. I need to improve my vocabulary and all of these things. So you don't just relax because you're great at something. And like I said, it's not a measure of intelligence, because if it was a measure of intelligence, trust me, most of us would have gotten cum laude for boards, basically, but because it tests, I feel like that's why I always say training to be a lawyer is like military training, because also it tweaks a lot of your character. It's not necessarily about, you may look at it like, oh, it's an exam, but that thing will test your character. How disciplined are you? How much are you able to, because if they give you, for instance, around about December, you're going to know when you're writing in March. The PLC is not crazy to do that. They know that thing requires time. They know that thing requires discipline. And already, right now, when you're done in August, you know that in March you're writing. There's no way that information is exposed for you just for it to be laying around. It's exposed for you because they know that you need time. You need time. You need to prepare. You need to practice. You need time. So utilize that time. It's a test of character. I feel like that's what being a lawyer does. It improves your work ethic when you're being trained to be a lawyer. It tests your character. And that is why I personally am always proud when people say, okay, they've done, they're admitted, after that they want to start their own businesses, they don't want to be in practice. It's so good because you become distinguished, especially if you allow the process to help you build your character. So yeah, guys, that's been my experience. That's been my journey in terms of writing board exams. They are hard but doable. Just practice, just prepare, just show up as much as you need to, and come back here and testify that you have passed all your board exams, or even one of them, because like I said, you can write 4 and pass 1. You can write 1 and fail 1. So yeah, just do what you need to do, and have a beautiful Wednesday. God bless you. Bye.